Sup, nerds? Own Goal here. Today I'm going to bring you the story of how we won a major best of 7 conquest finals in 3 games. Spoiler alert, our opponent conceded. Let's get to it. So there's this long invitational played offline. We have some previous videos on how we made it up to the finals. Our opponent was Heisi, one of the best Chinese players, just overall a very competitive and very strong opponent. So we got ready by not practicing. But we did, ask a couple players, like, what did he play? And one person got back to us, writer. So we had an idea that, like, he was playing greenskins and some other stuff. That was about the extent of our preparation. Let's get to the games. So in the first game, Heisi picked the map. He took Valley of Thieves, which is like a great defensive map. And he took 3 defensive factions, Skaven, Vampire Pirates, and Grand Cathay. I previously prepared a Wood Elves counter for a clan war when I had to play against, Alfredino, current world champ. And so I had a really good Skaven counter that I'd practiced against top level players from the Wood Elves. And I also knew that VP was pretty soft to them. So we ended up taking that. And it worked out really well with like kind of a crushing victory in game 1. Loading in, we set up with the assumption that he would kind of like box at the top of the hill. And we got it a little bit wrong, but it actually worked out better. This army's, the idea is you just shoot them to pieces. Like, so you have a very large number of Glade Guard. And then you additionally have some skirmish cavalry that can pop in and chase things off. And the Skaven are in a weird bind here because the Wood Elves' default strategy is to go for like a big cavalry and melee rush. And so they need to take enough elements to stop that. But then they're susceptible to getting outshot. And like very few factions can assemble as much total firepower as the Wood Elves. And so you kind of just walk up and shoot them until they're dead. We try to keep a big fire concave. He doesn't really have enough like chasing units to actually dive our ranged. So we just open up and we prioritize units by their damage output. So, we take out his globes and Giselles. And then the rest, like the Night Runners and Gutter Runners, we can just deal with on our own time pretty slowly. It doesn't really matter. He just didn't have any real threats to come into our build here. This kind of build can be a little bit soft to like a Skaven rush, but it's just utterly dominant against what he actually brought. And his build is like not an atypical Skaven build here, so it's a pretty tough matchup for the Skaven because the Wood Elves have 2 different things they can do, melee rush and like mass shooting, that are both independently pretty threatening to most things the Skaven would do. So that's a quick, easy 1-0. And in this kind of series, like, I think a major factor was we may have tilted Heisi a little bit. Like he ends up quitting after the 3rd game when he's down. But I think he was also a little bit unhappy. So you get like the additional bonus, not just the game win, but like the psychological factor when you have these kinds of like absolutely massive blowouts in the initial game in a series. Moving on to game 2, he took VC into my VC Tomb King's Beastman. And I was not expecting that. We got a little bit surprised, and I didn't really know what to do in a VC mirror, so I brought like a Mortis Blob with a bunch of Crypt Horrors because these have good stats and they're good and dumb. Heisi out-teched me here, so he had like a Lord that was pretty good against my Flying Lord, and then he took double Terrorgeists. And we just weren't really able to deal with his SE power. Well, he was able to use his anti-air spells and Terrorgeist to threaten my Lord and pick off my Mortis. But basically, like, we go into this big degenerate VC blob in the center, and we blob on each other, and he comes out as the blobbier blob. Fast forwarding a while because, blobs and blobs. He's able to just, like, get some good damage on our Mortis, and we're not able to, like, really get our Lord out to threaten his, because he's got such good SE power and our movement is constrained. And ultimately, that's what decides it. He's able to like get good damage on our Lord, get good damage on our Mortis, and then grind the game out from there. Nice play by him. And that ties the series up 1-1. It had been lagging like a little bit in game 1, so we set up Radman, which is like a direct peer-to-peer VPN tool. And at least on my end, it was not very laggy while we were playing, but I know that sometimes for Chinese players, you can have like more click lag on one side because of the Great Firewall and other factors. So being credible to Heisi, he might have been experiencing a decent amount of lag here. On to game 3, Heisi picked Tomb Kings, Beastmen, and Greenskins on a very big open map. And I know the Tomb Kings have like decent play into Kislev, but I decided I'd take Kislev and hope that he like hadn't really seen these like gun plus Grom builds before. And these can work pretty well when you have like a good defensive shooting position. You take some SC power to win the late game. So you've got like Frostworm and a Patriarch with heals. You've got a Grom to take out their Bo7 to prevent them from just like kiting you out. And you can do pretty poorly here against like double Bone Giant or enough Bo7 to walk up and get the Grom. But you've got pretty good play into other stuff. And on this map, we deploy in the high ground to get the terrain advantage. And our build's like decent into what he did, and then I think also like our game plan worked out really well. We deploy like a nice defensive star here where the guns provide mutual lines of cover. And we're able to walk up and get some nice shots with the Grom. He walks into range of the Grom, and we need to employ a tactic called zoning, where you walk up and you pressure their counter-firing unit so that it can't just fire with impunity. So it's okay for Grom to take some hits. We actually want that. We walk up and we zone out his Bone Giant with our Streltsy. And then this creates a situation where the Bone Giant has to pick other targets than Grom. And it gets us a little bit of time to shoot onto his Necro Knights and use up our Grom ammo, which is sufficient to get rid of one of his only tools for dealing with our SEs. And then our SEs are able to carry the late game. So this can be kind of tilting when you lose this way, It's like lagging a little bit, and we're like, we've got our big stupid healing blob, and it grabs stuff and kills it. And so I think Heisi didn't really want to play anymore with the lag after this crushed him. And then also, maybe was a little salty about it. Let's just call it what it is. So we win this game like pretty comfortably, just fast forwarding. We kill his lord and then we just push through him, and he has no tools to deal with the SEs and the healing. And then he concedes the whole series. So we are the tournament winner. We cheesed a lot. In the finals, actually kind of minimal cheese, which is disappointing. We were saving more for later. But overall, feel really good about winning this big international tournament. Was a lot of fun. I'll have to do some more conquest. Thanks everybody for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. And if you haven't already, go check out some of the other videos, especially the semifinal. It was a really great series. See you later, nerds.